Good day, everyone. Today we will be exploring how modern and contemporary literature and art represent disability. Unlike earlier portrayals or periods where disability was often framed as a sin, punishment, or tragedy, today's perspective will change the emphasis on identity, culture, and social constructs or the structures. Moving on to the first slide, we have the agenda for today. That is the disability perspective from the medical to the social, disability as identity and self-representation, narrative and digital forms of portrayal, intersectionality and global context of disability, disability through the form of art. Moving on to the next slide, we have the disability as a social constant. In earlier times, disability was seen as a medical issue, that is, something to be fixed or cured. But modern literature often embraces this, the social model. It is not the impairment itself, but the barriers society creates that truly disabled people. For example, uh, we have The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Arden, where Christopher Bone, the autistic narrator, experiences the world in his own unique way. See, the difficulties he faces does not come from himself because of the autism, but from a society constructed around normality that refuses to accommodate him. Similarly, we have Johnson's memoir, Too Late to Die Young, which breaks away from pity driven portrayals. See, she also refuses to be cast as tragic or inspirational just for existing. Instead, she presents her life as full, vibrant, and politically engaged. The message here is very powerful because disability isn't a tragedy here. It is society's attitudes that limits people. Moving on to the next slide, we have disability as identity that embraces crip pride. Modern writing also recognizes disability as a form of identity, much like gender or race. This idea of crip pride celebrates disability as a valid and empowering way of being. Take Lisa Genova's Still Alice. The novel follows a linguistics professor with early onset Alzheimer's. Instead of presenting the character as a simply losing herself, the book asks us what really makes Alice who she is. It challenges the assumptions that a person's worth is tied only to memory or intellect. Disability here becomes a transformation of identity and not an erasure of it. Coming to the rise of disability literature, for centuries, disability stories were written mostly by non-disabled authors, but now we see an increasing number of disabled writers telling them their own stories, which in turn is very authentic. We have Simi Linton's My Body Politic that merges personal narratives with political activism. And we also have Catherine Willis Percy reflects on family and faith in ways that shows disability as part of everyday life. Why does this matter here? Because the disability representation or the self-representation dismantles all the stereotypes like the super crip, the disabled hero who inspires by overcoming, or the charity case trope. These authentic voices tell us disability is not just a tragedy or inspiration alone. It is culture, community, and life reality. Moving on to the next slide, we have narrative structures and the disability. Contemporary narrators also experiment with narrative structure to reflect on disability experiences. We have The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which is an extraordinary example. After a stroke left him with locked-in syndrome, he wrote the entire memoir by blinking his left eyelid. The book contrasts his paralyzed body, that is, the diving bell, with the freedom of his thoughts, that is the butterfly. It forces us into his perspective, showing resilience and humanity. Again, we have the curious incident of the dog in the night time, where the story shows an unreliable character, that is Christopher, whose literal, logical worldview pushes us to question that what we mean to be normal. His way of seeing the world is very different, which is not lesser. Coming to the one second slides. Okay. With the rise of digital media, disabled voices now find new platforms for self-representation. Online spaces let the people to share their experiences and create their own community. Coming to the intersectionality in disability representation, another crucial development is the intersectionality itself. That is the idea that disability intersects with race, gender, class, and sexuality. Toni Morrison's Sulla powerfully shows how beautifully the character has evolved. Characters like Shadrach, suffering from PTSD, and Eva Peace, who amputates her own leg, face disability shaped not just by their bodies but by racism, poverty, and being black and poor in America. This reminds us we can't understand disability in isolation. It is always shaped by other social forces. Coming to the global context of disability in Indian literature, in India the story is similarly but culturally unique. Asian epics like disability, that is Asian epics links disability with dharma and karma. Bhakti poets like Surdas reframed blindness as a spiritual vision. In the colonial time, that is medicalized disability, linking it to poverty and stigma. Today, we have contemporary Indian writers and activists that who highlights rights, accessibility, and identity politics. In tribal and the oral traditions, disability was often integrated functionally. Someone who could not hunt might be a storyteller or healer. This reminds us that many cultures valued contribution over conformity. And we also have women's writing. See, women's writing also play a vital role. That is the LO wallpaper, which critiques how medical patriarchy disabled women through enforced rest cures. We have many works that reflects the same idea. These works expand disability discourse to include body politics, gender, and intersectional identities. Coming to the disability representation in the art form, visual art also plays the wide role, and it also mirrored the journey. In the medieval art, disability was seen as a sin or miracle cure. In the period of Renaissance, it was a curiosity or medical study and pity. When we came to the modern period, psychological exploration, and in the contemporary disability arts movement, we have self-representation, that is disability as pride and activism. Non-Western art often normalize disability uh, differently. For instance, Hindu depictions of Ashtavakra or Japanese prints of blind musicians. See, in the conclusion, so what do we see here? Modern and contemporary literature and art have shifted disability from being a sign of sin to a medical problem to a social and cultural identity. Today, disability is recognized as part of the human diversity, which is shaped by politics, culture, and identity. And mostly, the very important is disabled voices themselves are at the forefront, telling their authentic stories. So, as readers, our role is to keep pushing for representation that is accurate, diverse, and empowering. Because the way disability is represented shapes how society sees it and how we see each other. Thank you.